And I'm looking at these numbers and I'm judging myself and I'm comparing myself to other people and I'm saying, what are these people doing that I'm not doing? I'm funnier than you. I'm this, I'm that. I'm sitting there tit for tat comparing numbers and likes and comments and engagement and quality of, character, all of these things. And it's not fun. It's not fun. And it makes everything worse because inevitably you're going to come across the one girl who can sit on TikTok, do nothing, and go viral and get her brand deals and make her money and be happy. And obviously that's not you. That's not me. That's not me. That's not my situation. I wish it was. And then I get discouraged. And I start thinking, why am I even doing any of this shit? I'm working so hard and shit is just not going my way. And I'm useless. Maybe I'm unlikable. Maybe I'm unrelatable. Maybe I'm unfunny. I'm I'm so many uns. If I was, then, my numbers would be up. I'd have a boyfriend. I'd have a good job. I'd have a lot of money in the bank if I wasn't so, whatever. And then at the same time, I'm like applying for jobs. Nobody's getting back to me. And who cares if everybody's having the same problem? It is a bigger problem because it's happening to me. Duh. So we need to alert the president of the United States because it's happening to Divine. So now it's really an issue. It's touched me. We need a solution. We need to get the cabinet together. We need something. And I'm taking, despite the fact that there are trends in the news of what's happening, I'm like, no, Divine, you're the loser. You're the problem. Shit's not working out because you're involved. I don't know what kind of psychological shit that is, but it's very fucked. And it's something I need to figure out because I will internalize a lot of shit and I will put the blame on myself for a lot of shit that really doesn't have to do with me. And even when I'm trying to be like, it's not you, it's happening to everybody else, I'm like, you're just making excuses because you're lazy, because you're not funny, you're not brave, you're not life-changing, you're fucking you. And I tend to not have a lot of sympathy for myself at all because I'm like, bitch, there are children right now working their asses off, feeding their whole families. And what the fuck are you doing, bitch? You live with your mom and your dog. And then, I have like the part of my brain that's trying to rationalize. That's like, okay, yeah, but what's the point of paying for an apartment when one, you barely have money, and two, then your mama gonna live in this big ass house all by herself? What is the point of that? Everybody in your family having individualized homes, this idea of individualization, everybody being a landowner and living so far away from each other, that is American culture, babe. Like, let's be real. Why, what do you have to prove? You are actually very lucky. You have a roof over your head. Your tummy is full, clearly, fatty. Stop. I'm sorry, that was not nice. Your tummy is full. Your doggy is happy. Your mommy is happy. You have a home now. What is there to complain about? I will find something. I promise I'll find something. And I will fixate on that thing until nothing in my life, no matter how worse it has been, can compare to this thing that is happening now. We are working on it. One of the things that has helped me a lot recently, though, and that I need to write it out or like make it a nice little Pinterest quote to put as my background, to print it out and to put it everywhere so I can see it everywhere. The whole situation with my house, I'm not even going to say there was a time, there were times. No, because most of the time I thought to myself, this is never going to end. This situation is always going to be my situation. It is never going to end. I'm always going to have this horrible, crumbling house. Like, this shit is never going to get fixed. I'm never going to have a kitchen. I'm never going to have peace at home. Home is never going to feel like home. I am going to be stuck in this place forever. I thought that all the time. And then to see how quickly these things have changed in just 2 months, to see how quickly all of that has changed. Whenever I start getting really sad about, my career or my podcast or my TikTok or my funds or the lack thereof, I think about this fucking house and I'm like, if this house can change, so much can change. There were times when you did not think that any of this would change, and now it's all different. That can happen to your career. That is gonna happen to your career. Shit changes overnight. You work for years, decades even, and thinking nothing is ever gonna go anywhere, but the fact you keep working, and suddenly somebody sees you, or suddenly you are thrust upon the grand stage, and now your life has changed overnight. One of the things I've mentioned this before, but I also think about this too, is that guy who, he got 3 people on the live, bitch, and one of them is Oprah. Fucking Oprah. He got 3 people on the live, his mom, his sister, and Oprah. The thing is, if you quit and you never get on that live, if you don't get on your Zoom, if you don't get on that Zoom, you're never going to know who else is on that Zoom. If you don't get on that Zoom, if you don't get on that live, if you don't post that post, if you don't create what you are supposed to create, if you don't create the things that align with your purpose, and if you don't create with intention, and if you don't blindly create because you decide that you failed before trying, you will always fail because you never tried and you decided that you failed. Am I posting half of the time upset, angry, with tears in my eyes? Abso-fucking-lutely. But one thing about me is I'm stubborn than a motherfucker. I really am. I refuse to quit. I refuse to be told no. I refuse a lot of shit. And as much as I can talk shit about myself, as I'm talking shit about myself, I'm still going to do the shit I got to do. I have been so depressed this week for so many different reasons, although none of them was because I was single. So let's just applaud that. Thank you. But I've been so depressed this week, and I've just felt so heavy and like so sad. And whether, that's my incoming period, or whether that's because I'm finally taking my medication again consistently and my body is reacclimating, or whether it's just, seasonal depression or whatever, I need to remember that things are not permanent. All of this, I'm telling you, I know these truths because I have said them to myself. People have repeated them to me. I see them everywhere I look. Is it easy for me to remember that when I'm going through it? No. Like half of the time I'm like, I'm so full of shit. I'm full of shit because I'm sitting up here and I'm like, this is how you're supposed to feel. This is how I do to feel better. This is this and that. And it's like, but I'm not really full of shit because at the same time, I'm like, yeah, this shit doesn't always work. And half of the time I still feel like shit. But I would rather feel like shit and have a tiny little fucking light at the end of the tunnel than feel like shit and be trapped in a box with no light anywhere and no hope of anything and none of that. I don't think the point of anything is to ever be perfect. I think the point of everything is to know that things can change, that our circumstances can change. And I'm not even going to say we have the power to change our circumstance. Sometimes we do, but sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's not up to us because sometimes the things we want are not what we need now and are not going to benefit us in the long run. I was eavesdropping on my mom's conversation the other day. And she said that one time she was during the housing crisis when she lost a bunch of properties, like rental units. She was at church and she was like praying very deeply. And she was like, God, like you've done so much for other people at the snap of a finger. It does not take that much effort to save my investment properties. And she was like, clear as day, I heard a voice in my head that said, girl, I ain't tell you to buy no houses, child. I did not tell you to buy them houses. And she was like, yep, she got right the fuck up and she went to her lawyer and she was like, we're going to file for bankruptcy right now. Thank you very much. Because sometimes you want to do the thing and shit's not working out and you're crying about it and it's causing you all of these sorrows. It wasn't supposed to be anyways. It was not part of your purpose. It wasn't part of your life. Does that, knowing that, experiencing that, make the journey any easier? No. Absolutely the fuck not. I wish with all of my emotional knowledge that I never got depressed. Oh, I wish I could just be the happiest little babe on earth. But that's right now, that's not the situation.